Sweet. All right, guys, welcome to Left Seat, Right Seat. It's Jeff and I again here with Stu. He was one of my other pilots, one of Jeff's co-pilots slash pilots. um, so we're gonna be here talking about flight records and stuff, seeing how Stu is still flying. All right, so Stu, if you want to tell us a little bit about your transition and where you're at now.
Certainly. First, I'd like to say thanks for what you guys are doing. There's a great need. And I remember when I got out, I was stumbling, fumbling like a blind guy in the dark in a room full of pillows, not knowing which way was up. So thank you very much for doing it.
What you said.
I'm lucky enough to be in a dream job, but it wasn't easy getting here. I'm flying out to oil rigs in the Indian Ocean off the northwest coast of Australia. Before this, I was flying out of Louisiana and I did a couple of tours on the north coast of Alaska, out into the Arctic Ocean. So it's been a wild ride, but just like in the Army, I'm picking up adventures where I can, living life to the fullest. And I've got a very lovely and supportive wife that is like, hey, yeah, let's do this. So I'm set in the tropics, loving life.
I know.
Sweet.
Exactly. That's great. Yeah, I remember you hit me up for the when you were in Alaska. Like, come on out.
Yeah, the water's fine. It's
Right,
just
yeah.
above.
Yeah, and you hit me up for Louisiana. I was like, hell no.
Well, they did have to pay me to go there. I lived in North Carolina the whole time.
That's right. That's right. So, like, how was your transition for getting out? Did you start the transition to doing civilian flying beforehand?
No, I was medically grounded at the time. In fact, that's how I got out of the Army. And I was looking for work for probably 6 months and beginning to wonder because my severance check was running out and had a baby on the way and we were going to move. And it's like all these life changes and I don't have a job to support all this crazy stuff that's going on. I sent my resume to a staffing company in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they said, hey, you've got some experience that we need. I had a degree in chemistry, and they said, we need somebody with that experience to recruit for chemists and biologists for a pharmaceutical company up here. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. It pays the bills. I excelled at that for a couple of years. And at first I was like, hey, this is cool. I'm getting people jobs. I'm making positive differences in people's lives. But that gig was more about a meat grinder of putting people on contract, paying them as little as possible and getting as much as we can from the company. And the company's balling people up and throwing them away because they're contract. And I'm having to fire people for silly reasons. And I said, this is not the place for me. This is, and it started getting more sales, and I'm not sales. If you don't want to buy it, I don't care. I'm not that interested in selling it. So a flight school came to town, and I got on with them to get my civilian instructor rating. At the time, it wasn't readily accessible to military instructor pilots, and got recent flight experience and a medical. Recent medical, and then this company I'm working for now, Petroleum Helicopters, was looking for people with military experience and current flying, and I jumped right into it. It happened really fast, and it was a wonderful thing. I was extremely lucky and have been ever since.
Right. Sounds awesome.
But it was
So,
scary for, like I said.
Oh, we just lost Jeff. All right, we'll jump back on. So then with that, like, you had to get all those flight records that you were saying, like it was a
It's funny the way that I got out. Not funny. It's I was PCS to Germany, non-flying. So my flight records went with me. The unit deployed. And my flight records went with them to Afghanistan, and I got out of the Army, and it would have been something I would keep with me as I left, like my medical records. You process out, you get your records. Well, my records were Afghanistan, and I haven't seen them since. The, what is it, NPRC, National Personnel Records Center, seen them. I need to ask them again if they happen to make it there, but I don't have my flight records for anything. When you do get out of the military, you're supposed to get a DA 759 that catalogs your military experience, your flying experience, but it doesn't have everything that the civilian world's looking for. So for any transitioning pilots out there, I would keep track of your own records, your night unaided flying, your sling loads, anything else, long line, even the air assault stuff, anything you're doing at a hover at high altitude, those are things that civilian world is looking for. But the takeaway from this is to keep your own records and keep copies of your records. Anytime you're going to PCS and your records are getting possibly lost, make copies of everything. I did get my medical records all copied, and that's a 2-inch file, but
Right.
I didn't copy my flight records. So for anybody else, if you've got records, keep copies of them.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember medical records. I think they made sure I had when I got out, but I had to like go through a long list of things to get them.
Oh, yeah.
My flight records, I don't even know where those are at.
Yeah. Same thing. You got to petition the NPRC, and if they're in a box somewhere, maybe they'll get you a copy of them in 6 months.
Gotcha.
But related to that too, we had family medical records that were stored somewhere. My son was born at Womack Army Medical Center in Fort Bragg, and we don't have any records of that except his birth certificate, any of the care that we received. So family medical records is something that you need to keep up with as well. And that'll come in handy if you have pre-existing conditions. And we think about that as veterans because when you go to the VA, you're like, yeah, the Army caused this issue. I need to get disability for it. But it counts too in the civilian world for medical conditions. And if you have records of it, who knows how that's going to trip you up years later.
Right. Yeah, I think for my medical records it was there, and then when I went to VA, I think, trying to think, like I don't even think they have my old records anyway. I know I have them, but I think the first time I went, I didn't even take them. They were just like, I just brought them like a DD-214, if I could say it, and they were and my ID, and they were like, all right, there you go, and they're like, go sit down over there. I forgot what I went in for, or I think I was like sick for like a 3 or so, for like a month almost. So I was like, all right, I gotta go do something with this. And
You did your eval right after you got out?
no, I didn't. I never went there.
Yeah, I would highly suggest that too. It's something I wanted to take care of. It is as a backdrop for any kind of civilian medical care. I'll have VA medical care. I did get a disability. It wasn't for what I got processed out of the Army for, but it was nice, and I've used it a couple of times. It's nice to have the VA medical system safety net.
Yeah,
it's not a fantastic net. It's getting better. But I did have some issues and went, yeah, screw that. You guys are giving me a runaround. I broke my finger and they wanted to send me to a plastic surgeon. And I went, okay, yeah, I'm ugly. I got it. But it's my finger that's broken. And I'm saying, the hell with it. It's fine now.
Right. Yeah. I think it took me like 5 years before I went to the VA afterwards. I didn't even go to a doctor or anything in that 5 years. Like I was sick. I was like, I would take some NyQuil or Dayquil, whatever it is, cough it off and go do whatever I had to do. And then, but it wasn't until, I think it was, I forget, I want to say I was sick or something, but I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, okay, I need to go to the VA.
Yeah, and if it gets to that point that you're in a jam, that's not the time to be figuring out, what kind of care do I have? So you definitely be proactive.
Exactly. Yeah, and since then though, I've been to the VA multiple times. I do my annual checkups there now.
Yeah.
Instead of, the Obamacare thing, because I was like, I don't have to pay how many ever, whatever it is. I don't know what, $350 a month or whatever, or $1,200 at the end of the year for the taxes. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to VA and that's it. I'm good to hook. And then, and I went there and I had my hernia surgery there, and
Ow.
yeah, it was fine. It was like right after I was training for a fight. It was right after my fight, and I was like, all right, I gotta go. Because I was there, and when I went, the doctor was like, man, it seems like you've had this for like a long time, over 10 years. And he's like, did you ever notice like a bump, in that area or something before? I was like, yeah, it's been there forever. I mean, probably since I got back from Iraq. And he was just like, okay, well, yeah, you've had this hernia for, I guess, that long since Iraq. And I was like, well, that was 2003, 4-ish. So,
Exactly.
and then they finally fixed it. Yeah, exactly. And then they fixed it, and it was great. Like, I didn't have any problems with the surgery or anything. And I mean, I think it was like minimal cost to me. And cause,
Yeah, that's the cool thing.
so I was like, I was really happy with that. I think it was only like $50. So yeah, for a hernia surgery. And I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll take
not in a
that.
third world country. Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean,
unless it was in
Like-
Fayetteville, that might count.
yeah. So, I mean, that's what happened with me. Chatting with Jeff right here, see what he's up to. I think he's got to reset his internet. So,
It's funny. I'm in the most remote location of the three of us, and
Right.
my internet connection's kicking ass.
because you got that nice, sunny background. There you go.
Yeah,
Hey, buddy.
had to run out for more whiskey. All right.
Oh, I had some good whiskey last night. I can tell you that.
All right. Yeah. We were just talking about medical records and the VA when you dropped out. So we went past
When
flight
I dropped out of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we dropped out of flight records as well too.
Jack, okay.
Yeah. Did you? I know you. I think you said you had something to say about the flight records.
Did I?
Yeah.
Ultimately, like, I didn't give a crap about flight records when I got out. So I looked at them. I signed for them. I didn't check accuracy or anything. And, so like if I wanted to fly after I got out, it would have been difficult to understand what I even had because I didn't care,
Yeah.
But if you're going to go fly, you got to care, right? You got to get, have your IFR certificates and, MEG time and all that other kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
And that's a big block, I'm sure, for a lot of guys getting out. They're like, I don't care. Fuck it all. I'm done with the military. I'm going to ball up everything that has to do with the military and walk away from it. But there are
Yeah.
lots of strings, and I've got one later on in this conversation, a big old string that came back that got me. But there's certain things you need to get done, like get a VA checkout and have that safety net of the VA medical system. But get one soon after you get out so that your disability ratings are solid and your
Yeah.
pre-existing conditions are solid, and the VA's got a record of that because you will forget. Oh yeah, I twisted my knee on a jump 8 years ago, and now you're going to a doctor going, hey, I got a pre-existing condition. And they're like, prove it.
Yeah.
So get that, to get that stuff taken care of, even if you don't care about anything at the
I
moment.
feel like it might be easier for guys and gals getting out now just because it's digital, some of that stuff,
Yeah.
right? But we didn't have, I didn't have that when I got out. It was all paper and,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We were just
And
talking
you're-
about the 2-3 inch medical records that we have, especially
Yeah.
from the annual flight physicals.
right.
Yep. Up slips, down slips. Yep.
That's already like 20 pages right there on every one.
At least.
Yeah. So,
But
go ahead.
continuing on with the records thing, to transition to educational credit, that's another thing you want to keep track of while you're in the military.
Mhm.
Like for me, it's specific aircraft or specific things I did, the types of flying. But if you're in a communications MOS, then you're going to want to keep track of the systems you worked with, the types of encryption. Even if it was just a temporary thing that you saw the system had exposure to it, that's something that's going to come in handy on the outside world. You're going to want it on your resume. So just try to keep a scrap of paper with that stuff, hopefully a computer file saved somewhere solid, but keep track of all that stuff so you can use it later on in your civilian world and get educational credit where it's due for the military training that you've done, because that can be halfway toward an associate's degree and get you where you want to be in a civilian certification.
Stu, you said you had a chemistry degree. Did you get that before you came in or after you got out?
Yeah, no, I went straight into college after high school and wandered around and ended up with a chemistry degree that I had no intention of doing anything with. Funny enough, all that effort and money, and all I wanted to do was fly helicopters since I was a kid. But I checked the blocks that my parents wanted me to check, and then went and did what I wanted to do. And it came in handy later, but yeah, it doesn't mean anything now. Just something to wow your friends with at parties.
So did you use any 9/11 stuff, or did you pass it on to anybody?
No, I did actually for that flight training I was talking about. Oh no, I'm sorry. I talked about civilian helicopter flight training. That was out of my own pocket, but I have gone back since for some airplane training. And the VA specific about that, you have to go to a particular type of a type of training. There's one that's looser that a lot of civilian guys do, and there's one that's a lot more structured that the VA will pay for. And you have to go for your commercial and instrument ratings as a civilian pilot, because the VA is not going to pay for you to get a private license that can't go toward a job. So it's got to be job related. And that's something that anybody can do. There's been a lot of controversy about it because schools jumped up their rates to get as much as they could out of VA dollars. There's been schools that were defrauding the government. As with any other government dollar, there's fraud that goes along with it. But you can use your GI Bill to get flight training and subsequent training to get the flight time to go to the airlines. I'm going to do a plug for the Rotary to Airline Group, RTAG, on Facebook, and Eric Saveston that's doing fantastic work for veterans, specifically helicopter pilots going into the airlines, because there's a huge need in the airlines all over the world, even here in Australia. But even as a mechanic or just a veteran, there is the availability of those funds to put you in the pipeline to go to the airlines. If you're at all interested, I would highly suggest that RTAG, Rotary Airline Group, on Facebook. And I know they've got a website, but I don't have it off the top of my head. That's a hell of a source. And that's at least months if you're already a pilot, and years if you're not. But it's a direction, and it's well funded by your GI Bill. I haven't used it all, and I never did get my civilian airplane rating because the schools that I needed, the specific kinds, weren't working well at the time. That was back in 2010, 2012. And but now it should be a lot more available. And one of these days I'll get around to get my airplane license so I can fly my kids around for $150 an hour instead of $400 an hour in a helicopter.
All right.
Big difference.
Yeah. Big
I still got a year on that 9/11 GI Bill.
That's true, man. It's coming up on 10. Or yeah.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
So, yeah, and then so then, and because you didn't have your records, none of that like transferred over, or.
Well, I did have a paper copy of my civilian ratings, and I had my my logbooks, my personal logbooks that I'd kept. They stopped about halfway through Iraq because, like you said, you went fuck it, and I said stop writing stuff down. But I had enough that it could substantiate my claims that I had so much flight time.
Okay.
But it's not enough. In my job interview, they put me in a flight simulator and said, take off, do a traffic pattern. Okay, you're inverting IMC. Now you're flying in the clouds. And I didn't end up upside down. And I flew an approach and came back in. And they said, yeah, you're good enough. You're hired. It was really surprising how fast and easy it was. And they're like, you got a job. And I went, you got to be kidding me. I haven't flown in, at that point, 5 years, 5.5 years. Yeah. Well, I mean, except for the Robbie experience, I hadn't done instruments since then. And I was like, yeah, okay. Take this job before you change your mind.
Yeah. I'm not going to say nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for yes.
But yeah, it worked out. I was extremely lucky. But to hedge your bets on luck, yeah, keep track of things. If nothing else, just keep boxes of paperwork. Even if you don't go through it, you can spend hours digging through it later on if you need to, which I've done a couple of times since then, looking for specific things.
Yeah, same here. I got a box somewhere. I think it's in my brother's garage now. It's got all of my records in it somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
pay stubs.
Yeah.
And that gets to the gotcha that I was happy enough to go through.
Send it.
if you're not doing the annual credit report and you're checking your credit each year, I would highly suggest that it's free, and you get a report from all three of your credit reporting agencies: Equifax, TransUnion, and whatever shady agencies keeping track of everything you do.
Why do you recommend that, Stu?
Because you'll catch things that happen. People putting liens on you, people claiming that you owe them money, like DFAS, the Defense Finance Accounting Service, I think is what it stands for, because it was probably 2 years after I'd gotten out, signed out of everything. I do my credit report, and they say that I owe them $3,500. They didn't try to contact me. The first I saw of it was running this credit report. So I run through the several months long process. And fortunately, I still lived close to Fort Bragg. I could go down to the office there. And they said, yeah, you had a TDY voucher taking your family to Germany, but you didn't take your family. So you owe us the balance. And I said, yeah, I got signed out of the Army 2 years ago, and you said I didn't owe you anything. They're like, oh, well, that's too bad. You still owe us this money. Wow. So I had to go dig up this TDY voucher because they didn't have a copy of it. They just knew how much money I owed. So I had to go through, cover my butt, go back and forth with them, and ended up paying them $1,500. But had I not been checking, this would have been a huge ding in my credit rating. It goes to buying a house, buying a car, even some job interviews. They're going to be looking at your credit rating if it's money related. So yikes. And from the dark ages in the military, it reached out and got me. So
did you have a crazy box full of that stuff with that paperwork?
A whole filing cabinet full, yeah, medical records, TDY records, orders, and I've even lost a couple of certificates, like my my pilot certificate, the one that said I got my pilot's license. I've got my orders said I got it, but my certificate from Rucker, I could never get a hold of it. I've got everything else, funny enough, but the one that I need most crucially for my job, if anybody ever asks for it, I don't have.
Right.
But yeah, I've got sheaves of paper. Yeah. I've still got my maps from places, Fort Knox and Florida, that I flew. So yeah, I kept everything.
I guess that must have been good living in a off post, because every time we came back from TDY, I threw everything out because I was in the bricks, and it was like, okay, you have no place for anything, not even a pillow. So I just,
Yikes.
All my TDY paperwork, everything, I just chucked. Like, as soon as we got back, I kept it for like, I want to say 3 months, just because I think I had, or it wasn't even me, it was somebody else had an issue. And they were like, yeah, luckily I kept my records for those 3 months. And after 3 months, I just chuck all my records, like TDY, all that, like, just because I had no time or place. Yeah. So I guess saying that if you're in the barracks and you need, find a place to store all that stuff under the bed or whatnot. But
or digitally.
Yeah, digitally scan.
You just take a picture of stuff now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, that's easy. Keep an external hard drive, save all that stuff on, because your hard drive and your laptop's going to crash eventually, especially if it's full of sand from Udari and go. Yeah.
Right. And being in the industry I'm in now, working with technology all the time, put it on 2 hard drives.
Yeah, there you go. Or get Carbonite and put it on the cloud somewhere.
All right. So those things are going to crash hardcore, and they normally do.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that
good. Sucks for you, Stu, but that's good advice for someone else.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm good. I made it out. Like I said, I've been lucky. I don't know if I got a 4-leaf clover tattooed on underneath my hairline somewhere, but yeah, I've been lucky.
Maybe it's on your taint.
That's a chocolate starfish.
I'm not gonna check.
There's probably a website for that somewhere.
ShamrockTaint.com.
It goes downhill. They didn't say it was guys. Come on. All right.
So, hey, that situation make you go to do LifeLock stuff? I know that's kind of like at the end of the list, but
no. I thought about it. I saw an ad, and it was a year at least that I was like, I need to do that. But with all your records that are everywhere, both online and on paper, your social security number is out there. I understand the military's transitioned to another number since I got out, but even then, it's everywhere. Your social security number, addresses, your birth date. So those are things that hackers are going to use to get you. I have personal friends that have been victims of that, both military and civilian. It happens all around us.
Right.
I use LifeLock. There's other ones out there. I'm paying about $10 a month for me and my spouse, and I'm getting ads now for my kids for like $4 a month. But in this world where people can get a mortgage in your name or credit cards without your knowledge until they come collecting, it's easy money. It's easy insurance for your financial well-being. I would suggest that as well.
Yeah, I could also recommend that. Like just recently, my debit card was hacked and being used somewhere else in the world. And then I do know I've got one credit card that I didn't open in my name, but luckily there was nothing charged to it. I caught it in time, so.
Wow. All right.
That was good. But that was prior to LifeLock. But somehow I think I was doing a background check, and they were like, "What's this credit card?" I was like, "I don't know anything about that credit card," and I just called up the company. I was like, "Hey, cancel that or lock it because it wasn't me." And so I remember that happening. So that's a darn good thing too, you know. So really.
Here, and you can even do them. There's 3 of them. You can do them every 4 months. You can do one and then the other, and if you're worried about it, or you can do them all at the same time. And then the LifeLock keeps an eye on you all the time.
Right.
That's good protection.
Cool.
So you're saying that's a good Big Brother watching you? Maybe that's Big Sister.
That's subjective. That's yeah. That's
LifeLock is Big Sister. It's not bad.
Somebody's keeping track of you anyway. They might as well, be under your employ, and you have access to what they're looking at as opposed to Big Brother.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. So then on top of that, well, with the LifeLock, and then how about the life insurance? I know you wanted to talk about that as well.
Well, civilian-wise, that was a big question mark for me because we'd had SGLI, I think it was called.
Right.
And then when I went to flight school, there was a guy there selling life insurance. No, I'm sorry. That was when I enlisted as a helicopter mechanic at Fort Eustis. There was a guy there, and he's like, "Yeah, you just get this policy here, and it's but if you're going to be flying either as a crewman or a pilot, there are a lot of civilian life insurance policies that won't insure for airline crashes or any kind of injury incurred by a vehicle crash from the air." So I got those policies started, and I've since increased them. And then there was the part about, well, is it whole life or is it term life? And I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is. But term life is cheap, and you basically rent the policy. That's what SGLI is. Mm-hmm. But a whole life policy, it's more expensive, but you're investing in it. The money that you put into it is money that you get out later when it matures, or you can just cancel it and get the money out that you've put in plus interest. So it's kind of a savings account that pays out big for your family if something happens to you. And it's a whole life policy. I think I'm paying $120 a month. I have been for 15 years for $60,000. And at some point when I'm 65, I'll get that $60,000. Probably more than that, like $80,000 payout for all the money that I've been putting in. So it's an insurance policy that pays you back at the end. But like I said, it's more expensive. It's 10 times as much. It's, $120 instead of $20 a month.
All right. Yeah, I remember when I got out, they were saying you can keep your the SGI insurance, life insurance, but it was going to be $100 a month. I believe that's what it was. Yeah. But for me, it was like a $250,000.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that was for everybody, but I remember for mine it was like $250. So
I didn't do that.
But I mean, that was definitely something I probably need to reinstate at some point, some life insurance, especially now that I got a kid.
Yeah.
Life's falling off according to your hernia story. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I go for years at a time.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of life insurance, I know it used to be if you get a VA rating, that you can get the VA life insurance at that point.
All right.
And so just to throw it out there, it's one of those things that you only have so long to do it if you get a new rating. And so you don't have to piss and bleed, right, to get that insurance. Yeah, a lot of civilian ones, you got to piss and bleed, and they can deny you for certain things, or based on vocation and whatnot. So, if you're out there and you get a VA rating, I recommend picking up that, because it's like SGLI. It's term. It's fairly cheap though, for more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So just remember that that's out there, folks.
I didn't even know about that till right now.
See, learning is taking place.
That's what I would hear. If he acts on it, learning is taking place. Right now, it's just mild shock and surprise.
Yeah.
You gotta turn that into results.
Right. That's probably the part I'll be slacking on right there.
All right. I'll nag you later.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's I think that's pretty much most of the notes that we had for.
There was one more. You mentioned something about you were getting the clearance and saw your credit card, but your security clearance, if you have one for the military, if you can get that done, get it renewed before you get out of the military. I hope it's better now than it used to be, but I remember those things took months, if not a year, to get a secret or top secret clearance. So on the outside, those are expensive for you as a civilian and for the company. So if you can bring that from the military, that's a leg on a lot of people already, and it opens up a lot of job opportunities for you in the government sector and in the private sector. There are civilian jobs that'll look for that as well.
All right.
So because life is crazy before you get out and when you get out, and you might have a security clearance, and the security NCO or officer says to you, hey, you need to renew, and you're getting out, so you should just do it now. You should say, yes, do that. Don't say, no, I'm not going to do nothing like that anymore. Don't say that. Just get it done based on my experience, because it'll have open doors for you down the road that you may or may not need, but then you have the opportunity if it presents itself.
All right.
Trust me on this one.
It's good for 10 years, I think.
So 10, I thought it was 5. Well, I mean, it all depends. I think secret is 10, and then top secret's 5.
Yeah.
I think.
And my brother's gotten one. Actually, both of my brothers have gotten secret clearances since they've got out, and it's an invasive process.
Yeah.
For you and your next, or your family relatives and friends that you hadn't talked to, probably don't even like you anymore. Yeah, they'll dig that stuff up.
All the neighbors you've ever lived next to.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. What kind of noises do you hear coming out of that house on Saturday night? Ooh. Some of them were recognizable as farm animals, and it could have been some kind of primate. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'm going through one right now myself, and it's just like, do you remember your neighbors from when you were in the barracks? I was like, I barely remember my roommate. Like, I was like, shoot, my neighbors, huh? I mean, that one I know, but like outside of they're like neighbors from like 5 or 10 years ago. I'm like, I don't remember any of my neighbors, and even if they're still living there, like.
Yeah,
because
that's another keep track too, though, is your addresses.
Yeah,
because there's places that'll say, what list your addresses for the last 10 years, and I'm like, hell, I don't know. I was in the military. I've got at least 12 of them.
Right.
But yeah, keep track of that. And your resume, if you have a resume going with your job experience, you keep track of all those addresses on one document, one-stop shop. That's a good place.
Yeah,
Which is a redundant thing, though, because they know where you lived.
Ask the
they know it before. It's like, can you just give me the document, because I don't remember, please?
All right.
If you already have it, like, it's there. Just give it to me.
Yeah, ask the NSA. They know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think since 57, they closed down. I had to dig through my letters to find the address to the barracks, because it was not the same as the hangar. So I was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, it took me like 2 weeks to find a letter that had that address on it, you know, because when I was there, I just used the phone. Like nobody wasn't writing letters to anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, luckily, I think one of my other friends from high school was in the military, and she was overseas somewhere. So me and her would write letters, and I found a letter from her, and it was the only letter I had with that address on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, like,
Yeah. I've
because
been on Google Maps.
I didn't
and
know
I
it.
found the location. Hey, that's it. Oh, what's that address? Yeah. If nothing else, if you remembered how to get there, you can find an address.
Right. Yeah.
What a
'cause-
world. The world is so much different than even back then, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, even on Google Maps, though, it wouldn't tell you the address. Like, I can find the address of the hangar, but not not the barracks.
Oh, right. Because it's blocked out probably.
Yeah. Well, it's not blocked. It's just like they have a building number on there, but that's not technically your address.
Oh,
when
that's
you're in
right.
barracks. So
You're in a room or something.
yeah, like you have your room, and then it still goes to your unit, and then it goes through all that, gets shoved into the building, and then the building has its own mail room that shoots out all the mail. So even though you have the building number, that's not your address. So it's like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Yeah. So I was like, man, thank goodness I found this thing, because
And the fact that your job might hinge on it is kind of crazy too.
You broke up a little bit there. What was that, Jeff?
Oh, the fact that your job might hinge on that information seems crazy.
Right. Well,
Ugh.
I'll tell you one story about secret, or just a background check. It's not a secret clearance or anything. I was going for the CHP, and
California Highway Patrol?
yeah, for the California. Right. Yeah. He's good. Yeah. Not a lot of people might know about that, not living in California. So I was going for CHP, and they were like, write down all the speeding tickets that you ever had. And let's just say when I was in North Carolina, I used to speed a lot trying to get back and forth to where my girlfriend was, and then where I was, or
Yep.
my girlfriend at the time.
Why am I not surprised by that information?
Oh, man. I've got tickets in Tennessee going from Campbell to North Carolina, or from Rucker to North Carolina, 9-hour, 10-hour trips made in 8 hours. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got to make it formation.
Right. Yeah, I remember one time I made it from Bragg to Staten Island, where my aunt was in New York, in like 6 hours, and she's like, "That's impossible." She's like, "There's no way you could do it." I was like, "I got the speeding ticket to prove it." I'd have been here in 6 hours, but the cop held me over for like half an hour. So
You should be in jail.
right. So yeah, so needless to say, they were like, write down all your speeding tickets. I didn't remember how much I had. And so I wrote down, I was like, I had about 5 in North Carolina and maybe 3 here in California. He pulled up my record, and he was like, do you know how many speeding tickets you have? I was like, no. He's like, you had about 11. I was like, oh. So he's like, I don't think you can be a highway patrol officer with that many speeding tickets. I was like, but that should go to show you that I can handle myself at high speeds. He's like, that's not how it works around here. It seemed like you were lying.
My resume.
I was like, no, I honestly just didn't remember. But so yeah, due to that, and me yelling at one of my students, I didn't get the job, or I didn't even get recommended, should I say? I didn't make it through the background on that one, but
It's all right. Going to be failures in the process. You just dust yourself off and keep trying.
right, exactly. So yeah, that's a good lesson learned. On top of that, let's talk about speeding tickets. If you ever get a lawyer to go, and you're in the Army, especially if you're in the Army or military, not even Army, but if you had a speeding ticket and you get a lawyer to go get you off of that speeding ticket, make sure that the lawyer goes to court for you, or the MPs will show up at the ticket looking for you. And I know this also from experience. So, yeah. Also, I paid a lawyer to go. I think like my ticket or whatever fell off the desk at that date or whatever that he had his stack of papers. Mine happened to be the one on top that slipped off and fell off the desk, so he didn't go. They sent out. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, he's in the military. We'll find him right now." Sent me to the unit, and P's come. They're like, "All right, you come with us." I was like, "What did I do?"
What did I do this time?
Yeah, right. Of course, everybody in the unit was, "We told you she wasn't 18." Right? And I'm like, "Shut up, fools." So yeah, they're like, "You're right." So yeah, so I go over there and I forget the first sergeant's name. It was I can't remember his name at the moment, but he was like joking with me. He's like, "What was that?"
At the 57th Med?
Yeah, at the med, and but he was joking with me. He's like, "Was that
Gallego?
No, it was after Gallego, and after it was like two first sergeants after Gallego."
Oh, okay.
So, but he came down. He's like, "Man, I thought you were going to be hauled off in handcuffs."
So pay your tickets. That's the moral of the story.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't trust lawyers. Surprise.
There's another secondary moral. Or pay them more.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, good times. Also, keep that paperwork handy. Tie that back in.
Yeah. Keep copies. Digital.
Keep track of your tickets, I guess, if you're going to go into CHP.
Right. Yeah.
One other thing before I forget, get too far away. My wife had some trouble building a resume after she got out. It was a lot of volunteer work, but the people she dealt with all had military emails. Everybody moves on, loses those military emails. So get civilian emails from people, get more permanent contact information from the people you work with. And that can serve for a service member as well. Because I haven't used my army.mil.gov. whatever since I left. So definitely get solid contact information for people that you're going to need later on.
Yeah, I think you only. What was that? I think you dropped out right there.
Facebook. Everybody's on LinkedIn or Facebook or Skype.
Facebook now, yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, but I think with the military emails, you only have 6 months until you get out that they are still valid. If I'm right.
There was some transition to a different email whenever I got out in 2005 that still allowed you to access military stuff for yourself, for your records, and I let that fall apart too. Apparently it's not going on anymore. Who knows?
Yeah, I think once I got out, I tried using my military email, and I had it for a few months afterwards, but I think it was like 3 to 6 months afterwards they wouldn't allow me back onto it because I was trying to look for another one of my buddies just that had like ETS or PCS, whichever it was, and it's like can't get on anymore, sorry. So that's definitely a good thing to do. Yeah, but like
contacts.
Yeah, but like you're saying, Facebook and everything else right now, everybody's it's pretty easy to still stay in contact. Yeah, I think Higginbotham just hit me up on Facebook.
Yeah,
good old Higgy. So
yeah, Vietnam, you're a veteran.
Yeah.
The last thing I heard about Higgy was he was flying in Afghanistan for a civilian unit, and then his son was there or something too, something crazy.
Uh-huh.
So that's a long span of flying.
Yeah, he was old when we flew with him.
I know. He's always looking for the ashtray.
Yeah. Well, he's a crew chief in Vietnam, right? So
Sky Crane crew chief.
Sky Crane crew chief. So yeah. So he had flight time back in those days because I think the crew chiefs back in those days had to fly a little bit to like link up the loads.
He got stick time.
Yeah. So
he had the story about taxiing the thing backwards because he faced backwards toward the load, so he would taxi the aircraft backwards along the taxiways.
Yeah.
To make the tower wonder what the hell was going on.
Right. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a Sky Crane toy when I was a kid.
I saw one fly over once.
Right.
It had wooden wheels.
Yeah. Sweet. So, is there anything else that you could think of, or?
Not related to the transition, except that in so many ways there's a lot of support out there, and you don't have to reach out that far to find it. For work, for personal, for finance, there's a lot of help out there, and there are guys, friends of ours that are hurting in one way or another, and you reach out as best you can, because we got issues that the civilian world aren't going to understand sometimes. So remember that there's a lot of us out here that'll be there for you if you need it.
Yeah.
Help dig you out of a hole.
Yes, sir. And that's part of the reason we're kind of doing this. So.
Yep. What's amazing to me too is as people move on through their lives and their different transitions and schooling and different jobs and life experiences, though, that everyone has something to give back at this point. And a lot of subject matter expertise that they may not have had before. So use those contacts as best as possible, because you don't know who knows what now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we do this too. So, Stu,
Right.
you look just beautiful with the palm trees behind you. I'm jealous of your background.
I've been extremely lucky, but it's a matter of jumping at those opportunities when they come up. It's easy to sit in your place and your comfort zone and truck along, and there's nothing wrong with that. But with the experience that we have, having traveled and done things, we're much better set being veterans to deal with things that just pop up. Hey, you got this opportunity in Guatemala, and having been in a third world country, okay, I know what the pitfalls are. I'm not scared to go do that.
And a lot of civilians won't do that. They won't leave their comfort zone in their little house.
That's a step up that you've got.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of my high school friends that still live in the area.
Me too.
From high school. So I can see that. I know, but I like to travel, so I want to be moving.
Well, Stu, it's been great talking to you today. I don't know if we have anything else on the list here, but
we can always come back and revisit. But
yeah.
Yeah.
It was good catching up with you, though, man. And I'm glad you're doing well. It's good to see you with the palm trees behind you, like I said, and letting your kids see the other side of the world a little bit. It's cool too.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. It's great to see you guys with smiles on your faces. All right. Life is good. There you go. Nice teeth. Yeah. However much you had to pay for them.
All right.
You're all natural, baby.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely good catching up.
So next time you're in the United States, we'll find each other and get a beer here, man.
Amen. And if you find yourself on this side of the world, you're welcome here.
You never know.
All right.
Yep. You're welcome.
Hopefully soon.
You never know when I'm going to have to leave the country.
It's true.
You leave the country every week.
I'm back to haunt you.
Yeah, I do.
Benefit of living in Buffalo.
No kidding.
All right, man. Well, we'll catch you later.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks.
sir. Have a good one, Stu.
Cheers, gents.
Cheers.
Bye.
Ciao. All right, stop. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Left Seat Right Seat. If you liked what you heard, just go ahead, hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. And come back next week for another episode. And also follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all your other podcast venues. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you again later. Bye.
See ya.